This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, excellent. All right, folks. Hi, welcome to the first VMCA show. Hopefully, we're going to have a lot of these. And the goal of this show is to help us all pass, learn about, and pass our exams. But we won't be giving away the answers to the questions. So today, we've got with us an extremely special guest, Razvan Ionescu, and I'm going to introduce him in a second. Before doing that, though, I want to do a shout out to all of Veeam's trainers because my personal experience has been fantastic with Veeam. First trainer I had was Rasmus Hasland back in 2015. Since then, people like Chris Huss, Joe Monahan, Razvan, these are top professionals. And I don't think I'm the only person who thinks that. And I just wanted to make certain that they feel appreciated for what they do. Without any further ado or delay, Razvan Ionescu, who is the EMA technical trainer and principal technical trainer. And I actually did some spy work. I looked at his biography, and he was a teacher originally. His first job was a teacher, so that explains why he's such a good trainer, right? Tons of certifications: CompTIA, VMware, AWS, Google, HashiCorp, Terraform. So a lot to be said here. Razvan, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your background?
Yeah, sure. So, hey, I'm Razvan. I'm based in Romania. My name is pretty, actually, Slavic name, but it comes from Middle East. It's an Arabic background. Then, so I don't know why I said that. Yes, I was a teacher. That brought me back to the childhood, because I was a teacher. Very early in my career, I was still in college, and I was also teaching computer science for primary and secondary schools. So that was a very interesting experience. I had kids from 7-year-olds to 14-year-olds, and limited hardware, but it was, yeah, it was pretty good to go through the experience, to try to open a bit their horizons. It was 2000, early 2000, when this was happening. So thanks for bringing that out. Also, thanks for investigating it somewhere, I think, in the LinkedIn profile at the end. 24 years later, I'm a principal technical trainer for EMEA with Veeam. So my main focus is teaching Veeam SEs and solution architects and technical account managers, whatever comes as a technical role in EMEA. They're gonna go through my classes at some point. I've been doing this for the last 3 years. I'm in this role. I'm not doing only teaching. I'm also developing content, so new classes, new courseware, new labs. I'm involved in different activities, let's say, and I've also been involved in recently in the development of the VMCA, of the latest version of the VMCA class, which in a way explains why we are here today in front of you, right? Very shortly, I'm between starting as a teacher, ending as a teacher today. I've done a lot of roles. I've been working in pre-sales. I've been working in post-sales, professional services with Veeam. Actually, I've been working in operations for telco. So I've been everywhere. I had customers in finance, Fortune 500. I've had customers with only 2 servers in their environments. So I've seen it. I've seen a lot. Hair loss is also a cause. All right. So yeah, and again, thanks for inviting me and having me here. And yeah, that's it. Welcome for me.
It's really interesting. It's always good to know your trainer and their background because it explains, how they got to where they are and what they know. So our focus today is on the VMCA, and for some of you may have done VMCA before, some of you it might be your first time. One of the things that we point out right away is it is a different animal from the VMCE. There's different goal involved, and the structure is different, and the way I believe to study it for it is different. So, Razvan, everyone here has either done it or wants to do it again, or we all will have to do it again in 2 years because Veeam are making us do it every 2 years. let's talk about the exam itself, preparation, any advice you can give.
I would start a bit about the structure of the class and the comparison with the two, because you said very well, very different beasts, different kind of trainings. VMC on one hand, it's intended for people that actually start with working within backup and replication. It's let's say an entry to mid-level training, but it's very it's hands-on for the labs. It tries to teach you a lot of concepts. It tries to teach you a lot of features, functionalities, and right now there are like 4 days of doing that. And once, but it's more into the operational part, more addressed to the backup admin, if you want it, right? Like want to go for a role. Now the VMCA, on the other hand, comes with a totally different concept. It, for example, for the whole period of VMCA, nobody touches any VBR console. You are out of the product, of hands-on with the product itself. And this time what we're trying to do with VMCA is to get people into maybe to get them to think a bit like an architect, to get them to go put that architect hat on and start asking the question and start thinking about different situations, different use cases, and apply that knowledge while designing a solution for a use case. So as you can see already, it addresses basically to a different type of audience in the beginning. So if you have your backup admin, the guy that will do the restores and everything in the VMC, in the VMCA you have it's a higher level view. However, you need to have the knowledge from VMC to be able to be successful in the VMCA. It's not mandatory to be a VMC certified architect or individual, but it will help you to know and to understand all the moving parts from VMC. So you are now able to take that knowledge and apply it at a higher level. Basically, you're doing a design, but you're not doing only the design. That design, let's say, it has different stages. It's not that simple as one may think whenever we're thinking about Veeam, right? VBR has come with the idea that it's a very simple product to install and configure and use, and it is up to a certain level. So in the beginning, it's everything. It's all in one box, and then it works from that start, from that easy deployment. But then, if you're going to expand your infrastructure, or if your infrastructure for which you design is actually more complex than just a few servers with a couple of tens of hundreds of VMs, then you actually need to, again, to start creating a design that fits that architecture and that infrastructure. And here the problematic parts appear. You need to understand each role. Veeam has a lot of roles, right? We talk about the backup server role, we talk about the mouse server role, the proxy, the brepo, gateway server, there are more, right? And each role, each component in Veeam needs then to be somehow designed, catered for, not forgotten, and put it in the right place. And basically, that's what we're trying to do with the VMCA. We're trying to look at a scenario that is complex enough and take you through design methodology, Veeam design methodology, apply that methodology while creating the solution for that scenario. At the moment, we have released V12.1, so it's, I think, maybe 2 weeks, something like that, that's been available, or less than 2 weeks. And what happened with the 12.1 is it went to 3 days. So we are now looking at the VMCA class that takes up to the next 3 days to do. And why we're doing that, it's basically we are adding more exercises. VMCA is a very interesting class because it is more like a workshop actually. The trainer is in the end a facilitator. It guides you as a learner, as a student, towards some ultimate goal, that design. However, you are doing the work, and there is a lot of knowledge sharing between the learners. The concept of the workshop is we have teams, and those teams, people are grouped in teams, and they are actually working in those teams to create the design. So they share all the time their information, their knowledge, which is, in my opinion, that is a good part of VMCA. You get to learn from the experience of other people around you. And what we did, we went and we increased the number of time that the teams spend together, the exercises that we are doing together. And what we do also in the end with the VMCA class right now is once we have the design ready, the teams will prepare a presentation, and they will have to go back and present their design as if they were a team of architects presenting back to the customer. So that's let's say the novelty added to the class. Well, I think you asked me something and I started talking about something else, right?
Oh, that's okay. I also want to point out here, folks, if anyone has questions, you can interrupt anytime you have questions. I'll say too that, I mean, that's really interesting because when you study for the VMCE or you study for VMCA, it is a different path. And by the way, that we got an excellent also VMCE group in the hub. I think Shane's present here. He runs that. It's excellent. And I think what you said is important. It was hard for me to understand, but one thing I'm going to reiterate is that you really need to know Veeam to go to the architect. I mean, it sounds like, yeah, that's a given, but it's not a prerequisite anymore like it was for the ADO, where you had to have VMCE to get a VMCA. The problem is if you show up at the VMCA and your knowledge of Veeam isn't solid enough, you won't be able to provide the right solutions for a given scenario. That's at least what I found. So with the course, so correct me if I'm wrong or not, that's why, for instance, question and answers is more difficult with the VMCA because, and I'll admit to be the first with this, when Razvan had his videos, whatever, for VMC, and there was other too. I used to go there and just go through them 1,000 times and redo the practice test 1,000 times and just memorize. And that helps somewhat. I mean, there'd be questions I wouldn't know. But I think what you're saying is that for the VMCA, that's really not so if we created a bunch of questions, had a bunch of answers, that might get people into a false sense of security. So what you're saying is it's the process, not so much the individual elements.
Yeah, in a way. So let me just answer to Shane. Yes, Shane, one of the older trainers said that this version of VMCA is a hybrid between V1 and the one that was previously existing. So there was a presentation, there was a design at V1, and that thing is back again. So yeah, and to get to the question, well, it's it is the process. It is you will not find some. For example, for VMC, it's a lot about remembering exactly features, remembering what you have in the UI. If you read the user guide a couple of times, you will be able to do the VMC without any problem. If you read the user guide and then if you after that you want to go to take the VMCA exam, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because some of the questions you'll be able to answer them based on the information that you had from the user guide, but other questions you will not be able to answer them if you have no experienced in architect or anything like that, or if you haven't looked at, if you haven't ever designed a Veeam solution, right? So because I'm talking about this design, I just wanted to share just quickly the slide, which is actually, well, let's see if that works. Do you see a beautiful slide? It's a beautiful slide.
A beautiful slide.
So basically, you need to understand a little bit the steps that are presented in this design methodology. And this is the design methodology that we are applying in the class, and it's the design methodology that Veeam architects are actually applying. And it has been developed. So it's not something that we artificially developed for a class. It's something that we developed internally. We are using it internally, and it's also part of the class itself. And it's the methodology basically explains what we use as the steps, the stages whenever we go into design. And we talk about the discovery phase, where we try to gather a lot of information. So discovery phase, I call it the therapy phase. You just go and ask questions and listen and take notes. You don't do a lot of other things. You just get information from your client, customer, and you just get that, put that information somewhere. And then this discovery phase doesn't really end, because you all the time have to do some more discovery, the more the process advances in different stages, you still have to ask more questions. But then the things are going to, okay, we're going to do a conceptual design when we take the information from discovery phase, and now we're talking about finding requirements, finding assumptions, constraints, risks. And again, these are the building blocks on which we will create the design. Yeah. We get someone tells us that he wants to do something, someone tells us that he wants to be able to not get into a ransomware situation anymore. There's a business requirement, and running in case of failure of the main data center in 7 days. And from here, you start extracting different requirements, asking more questions, and you do that in conceptual design. You try to find out which are your the constraints that come from the product, or they come from the environment, or which are the risks for the project. And then you build your logical design. You start to bring in all the information that you have from Veeam. So here in the logical design, you actually need to know what feature is doing what, how we can actually fulfill some of the requirements using features. And then you start going to physical design, where you take that logical design, you place it in, you give it a physical form. You put it on a specific operating system. You choose and you do some, you choose a specific hardware for your repositories. All these things are happening throughout the class, and all these are exercises that they're done. And then we talk about the last 2 stages: implementation and governance, validation, iteration, and just a continuous cycle. As you can see, the methodology hasn't changed basically from the previous versions, and the methodology didn't change because we didn't change it internally. What we added was, we're doing now physical design also. We're having the presentation of the customer. We have we spend less time, let's say, doing the formulas, although we still discuss about formulas. We still present the logic behind, but they're not that important anymore. We're using tools. We're using a dedicated tool for this that is supported by Veeam. The Veeam calculators are now the official tools for sizing. We explain in the class some of the logic behind. However, we don't do the math by hand anymore.
There's a question there.
Yeah.
I hope the new course is more into real enterprise numbers, like in a few thousand clients. I can tell you all is changing if you go outside the normal numbers. Good point.
A few thousand clients, it's workloads. Yeah, it's in a few thousand workloads, the use case.
You've also got
Okay.
validation, iteration. The validation is important. I'm assuming that's all sure backup and things like that.
It's about testing, yeah, making sure that you have your user test done, that basically you can prove that a specific requirement has been implemented, and you can actually open the console and run a test, run a demo, or run a test, a real test which has some performance metrics in it. Show that to your client that you can actually restore 1 terabyte of data in 10 minutes, which would be some. I just made up those numbers. And this methodology, where I wanted to go here is, when you apply this methodology, you can actually, at least in my opinion, you can take it outside your Veeam environment. It doesn't have to be applied only to Veeam projects. It can be applied to actually any IT architectural project. It's what you need to change. You're not changing the logic behind of what you're thinking during this process, how you're asking the question. What you're changing the tools that you're using. If you go to one of to implement another type of project, it's still IT. You're not going to size one task for one core. You're going to size, I don't know, 2 network cards for one server. Weird numbers, but it doesn't matter what you're doing there. You can still apply the same methodology. So if you are an architect, or if you want to start learning architecture, you're a backup admin, and now you want to become an architect, you want to advance in your career a bit, actually this class can help you, get you into that architect mood. It may be easy, it may not be easy for you at the beginning, but it will give you some solid foundation on what an IT architect can do.
That's important, and I think you're totally right, because VMC, you're going to learn VMC, you can do Veeam. One thing I wanted to point out, I just remembered now from my first 8.0 class in New Orleans, the trainer came out and said that was when you guys had the "It just works." That was the Veeam motto, and he said, "We're in this class because it just works, but a lot of times it just works badly if you haven't architectured it properly." So I think that was I always remembered that. So if you finish here, do you have any example questions, not from the real exam, of course, but that you could show us and discuss this, like give us a mini course?
Yeah, we can look. So when you go to the VMCA exam, because yeah, that's the one thing. The VMCA exam, we'll look also at there is a blueprint. We'll look at it. It's made out of 50 questions, and those 50 questions right now are pretty long. So you have to first of all be prepared of reading a lot in English. If you don't like reading, or if you don't like English, it's going to be a bit difficult. You get, I think, 90 plus 15 minutes if you are not a native English speaker, so you have some time. What I can tell you from my personal experience is about, I think I was around the question number 28, 29, when I was thinking, God damn it, I had enough. I just wanted to end. Too much reading.
I've been there.
So yeah, so that's why these are smaller questions than probably what you'll see, like smaller in the text part. Let's look at this one. Company A has 3 locations. During the initial design, the scope was limited to only 1 location. Over the last weeks, Company A decided they want to extend the project to the other locations, which brings additional workloads to protect, both virtual and physical. Which components need to be adjusted to ensure the backup window SLAs are met? Choose 2. And please, so I'm not going to say anything, please put in the chat 2 letters. They can be random letters, or they can be the answers to the question. All right. Yeah. So I see. Yeah. I mean, you all got it. You got the right ones. So we're bringing in new servers, new workloads, virtual and physical. We're gonna need to modify in here the repository resources and the number of proxy servers. The other answers are irrelevant in this. There is also So whenever you don't know what you want, what the answer is, you can start thinking the answer, thinking of trying to find the correct answer by eliminating things that you know they are not actually okay. And this is a tactic that you can apply to basically any kind of exam, including VMCA. So because here we're talking about adding new workloads, physical, virtual and physical, and we want to ensure the backup window SLAs are met. Enterprise Manager resources the Enterprise Manager is not used in backups, as using full self-service restore for other things, but not during the backup. So it doesn't apply anything. That's not a correct answer. Cache repository resource. Cache repository is something that comes from file share backups or unstructured data backups, to be more precise now. And again, it doesn't have to do anything with virtual and physical, so it can be eliminated. Veeam1, nothing to do with the backup windows SLAs. Well, it has something to do with the backup windows SLAs. It can report on it, but it doesn't influence those SLAs. So you can also use this approach to eliminate and find out the hard the questions, the answers. Another one, following more stakeholder discussions, company B has decided to decrease the backup window from 10 hours to 6 hours. There is a typo there. Year-over-year growth rate has also been updated and increased from 10% to 15%. Which components may need to be modified to accommodate for the changes? Choose 3. And please, let's do the same exercise.
Yeah, I think when you see the word decrease, that's one you'd say right away, it doesn't fit. But one thing I'll comment here, you got to be really careful with the long questions. In the old days, they had those evil questions, I call them, where they're long and then there's a not in there. And so you're reading along, go, oh, I know this, and you click, but you didn't, you speed read and you missed the word is not. Because I fell for that once somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, please be aware that the questions themselves are self-sustained. They don't relate. If you see something that sounds familiar for another question, it has nothing to do with the other question. It's just
I think that's
context
from the last exam, because I think the 2022, if I remember correctly, when I did it, there was one big scenario and every question went back to that scenario,
yes,
but the questions weren't linked. And so some people got messed up because they thought, well, in the last question, I changed the proxy. But yeah.
Well, this iteration, this is V12, so it's not, it was updated last year, and also this year should be another update. So this one is just the question, and all the context you get it from the questions. So yeah, everybody got the answer. This was an easy one. By the way, if you know what you're doing, from my point of view, this is an easier exam than the VMCA, if it makes sense. The last one, okay, you need to protect the large file share as part of your design. What information you need to gather before sizing the solution? And again, you have to choose 2. We have an AD. Yeah, so it's basically AND. You need to know that you're sizing file share solutions based on either the number of files and folders in there or on the amount of data to protect, but you need to get both and do the sizing and see which one requires more resources and go with the more resources, whichever it's bigger. The other things are very just random answers. So you'll get also single answer, but basically these are, let's say, some kind of examples of what VMCA is looking at from the point of view of questions. As a general, you'll need to know again DBR to need about the components. You'd also need to know things about enterprise plugins, how they work, what they do. So, and yeah, CDP, it's another topic that may come up as a topic in there. And if we go very quickly to the blueprint, so the blueprint, the exam blueprint, exam information, you can find it here, the link. I mean, the link, I can give you the link in the chat. It's where you actually can schedule your exam, right? Why did I put it 3 times? I could not say, but please don't blame me. Yeah. So from here, you can also download the VMC exam. Once you attend the training course, you have, for some reason, I took the one for VMC. The link is for VMC certification. It has 2 tabs in it. One is the VMC and the other one is the VMCA. So it's going to be that one. The exam information is from the VMCA. Some information about the prereqs. You need to attend the VMCA AD or B-1. So if you are a holder of VMCA 2022, you should be able to qualify for the exam without actually attending the class. You just need to see there. There are 50 questions, 40 of them are scored, 10 are seeded items. And this is a new concept introduced recently with our exams. We don't know which are the seeded items. So if you have questions that you don't know what to do with them, you're unsure, mark them for review. Don't spend too much time on them. Yeah, mark them for review. You can review them. You have time, you can review them at the end. And again, don't beat yourself or don't bother too much, because out of those 50 questions, 10 of them are not getting any marks. So maybe you're lucky.
That, by the way, Razvan, that was difficult for me psychologically. I would advise people to forget that, because it really doesn't make a difference. Because I started thinking, well, 10, maybe this is the one, and so I just did what you said. I went through, I think 80% of the questions I said, go back and check, even the ones I was certain of, simply because, sometimes in these exams, you'll have 2 questions that are technically right, 2 answers, that is. But you have to check to see what the customer wanted. What did they ask for? What are their restraints? It'll say they want to use cloud resource. They want to, and so the other technically correct answer is not correct for this question. As I said, and that I had me going back a lot more. But I just forgot about the 10 not being correct, because I think, well, maybe this, I go through every question thing. Maybe this one isn't counted. Okay.
Yeah, just forget about it. So yeah, someone wrote here, Danny wrote here that the website is still out of date. Yes, I know, unfortunately, it is out of date. We are waiting for it to be updated for some time. I think, however, you can register through the trainer providers. So any accredited training provider can allow you to register, and then it will be updated. If you're a VMCA 2022, no, you don't need to take that class anymore. You can go directly and sit the exam. The scoring system, it's a scaled, scored. 720 is the minimum, but we don't know which questions get more than, which questions weigh more than the others. So again, don't bother with it. Just you need 720 out of 900. By the way, at the end, it will take a bit until you get the result. You get actually the result, a few minutes or so. Or so when I took the exam online, and after I pressed finish, I was expecting to see my result and something, and it was bye, thank you. And I'm like, what? What do you mean bye, thank you? Tell me.
I had the same thing. That happened at the VMCE as well in November, and it just, my worry about these things is something went wrong with the exam software or something. And so I finished it, and you used to finish it and just brace for impact. What's going to pop up, and then I just got this thank you. It's like, what? What do you mean thank you? And I had to walk out, and then you wait for the printout, because the lady printed out the piece of paper. It's like, so I know what you felt. Yeah, Chris Childrose, same thing. You get the printout. And so they give you the paper. And the thing is, I noticed she looked at it, and I looked at her face, and she was like, and I went, oh no. And so and I didn't have my glasses on. I already put them away. And what does it say? So, anyways, just be ready. We're trying to prepare you not only for the technical thing, but also the emotional experience.
The emotional experience is very important in this. I mean, I know people that they're very, very good technical people. They know a lot of things, but whenever they have to take a test, they just start crumbling and they don't remember things. And then it is important. It is in English, time limit, delivery person view. We know that. There is a retake policy here. If you ever need to retake it, it's detailed in here. And okay, exam security, you're not gonna do that. What you're not allowed to do, you can read it. And the outline. I'm trying to get to the important part, the outline. So there is this mapping, let's say, between what we're looking at. The number, the percentage here means that 25% of the questions are related to the discovery phase. Going back to, if we remember this methodology, because that's why I just wanted to have the methodology here. Yeah. So you get 25% of the questions relating to that discovery phase. Now, like I said, discovery phase is something that actually never ends. And the questions actually I put in there are in a way related to discovery questions. I mean, whenever something new appears, you need to gather some information. Those are discovery phase questions. Data gathering, infrastructure overview, SLA definition, everything, environment analysis for the current environment, different things, and whether or not you need to use enterprise plugins. All those things, they come from discovery. Then we have 25% of the conceptual design, and is mostly around these requirements, constraints, assumptions, and risks. So identifying the correct, identify whether it's a requirement or it's a risk, identifying what the assumptions are. Logical design, and in the logical design, here we look at components, features, and how they map back with the requirements. So you may get questions where you have a requirement in the body of the question, and then you are asked what component to use or how you can do it. Can you do it with CDP? Can you do it with vSphere application? Can you do it with enterprise plugins? Can you do it with I don't know, something else, with backup copy jobs, whatever in there. But it's about understanding all. This is basically the part where your most VBR knowledge needs to be used, or most of your VBR knowledge needs to be used at this moment. So you need to identify the steps, calculate general sizing requirements, and things like that. And physical design, it's not very much done here. So it's only 12.5% of the questions regarding physical design. It's mostly about how you can actually, what we're going to choose. If you're going to go for a virtual proxy server, or you're going to go for a physical proxy server, are you going to use Linux box or Linux box, or are you going to go for a Windows box? These kind of decisions. Okay, deployment and okay, something is we have here not deployment evaluation. Everything else, the last phase is about iteration, validation, governance, deployment. It's going to be where you're going to have probably some questions from there. And the idea is the questions were created in these percentages. They are in a pool of questions, and you get randomly questions out of that pool. Let's see some questions from.
Yeah, there's a question here about what products are covered in the VMCA exam. So backup application, Veeam 1, DRO. So that's always an important question. You don't want to study stuff that's not going to be an exam, although you should. But
yeah, so the focus is VBR and everything that VBR can do. Again, like I said, including the new functionalities like unstructured data backups like CDP enterprise plugins. No, it does not include VCC. VCC is something totally different, seen as something different only for cloud and service providers. It does not touch, it's not relying on Veeam and VRO, on deep knowledge on Veeam and VRO. However, you should know what you can do with Veeam and VRO at a general level. You should know that Veeam is used for monitoring, reporting, whatever, and it doesn't have anything to do with, I don't know, influencing the bandwidth between two sites or the replication SLAs or something. So if you know what the tools are doing, what VRO is doing, for example, if you know that VRO is doing automation, it's used to automate BCDR, DR actually, for you. Then if you get a question where you're asked about, can I use CTP to automate the DR, not going to hold on, right? You need to think about that's going to be something like VRO. But other than that, yes, you don't need to go and study in deep one or VRO. The document that I'm sharing, it's, well, I suppose we can send it, but you need to go to that link that I pasted online and you'll get it from there. And I think this is the best way to do it because otherwise
it could change. It could change,
it may
right?
change. Yeah. So you have to go here, Veeam Certified Architect. I'm not logged in, of course. Thank you. I need to log into this one. Let's log in here. Okay. Let's see. Going back to Veeam Architect. I am a Veeam Architect. And you can find it in here. Where you have to schedule your exam. If you press Manage VMCA exam, it will take you to a Pearson view site. And from here, you can download
I think
the
that
exam.
specifications, yeah.
Yeah, in step 2. Exactly.
Well, that's excellent. And I'll tell people, just from my experience, because I upgraded, I didn't take the course, and I just used the blueprint. And on every single link, I'd right click and I would read through the documentation. What I didn't do this time, because I didn't have there are the old Rasmus questions, of course, they're now quite dated from Veeam 11, is I had to this time just judge myself on what areas I thought I was weaker in. That's from the point of view of making sure that the VMCE knowledge is still strong so that you can use that here. But then I think, as Razvan said, the actual doing this, you have to practice and practice the whole thinking it through. And with that, I wanted to make a little announcement here, is that on the VMCA study group in the Veeam Hub, what we decide to do is, instead of having questions and answers, because that's more VMC and it fits perfectly with VMC, we want to start a new little series called You Make the Design, whereby not daily, but maybe every week, maybe twice a week, we will come out with it won't so much be a question, it'll be more a thing of, I'm customer Geoff and I've got this and I can spend this and all sorts of things like that. You make the design. And then what we hope people will do for practice is that everyone write in their little design and then they can talk to one another, discuss what's better. The purpose of this is to get used to constantly getting these scenarios and constantly thinking them through. Because unless you're an architect doing this every day at your company, like someone like Chris Childerhost, for instance, he's an architect at his company. He does this every day. But for other people who aren't doing it every day, that's, I think, what Razvan's really underlined here. It's the thinking it through, getting something, different solutions. So we're going to be doing that on the Veeam Community Hub in the VMCA study group. Maybe we even have a show at some point where we discuss some of these designs that were created. So this will not be anything like the course. It won't be anything like the exam, but it'll be in the same area of training you to get used to that process and method. Maybe we can have Razvan come in, take a look sometimes and give some critiques. Um, but the idea was not to just do questions and answers, because I myself got caught on that with the first Veeam architect class, which was really difficult. Not the class, but the exam, where all the formulas. I just remember going and memorizing these formulas. So that's coming in the VMCA. Oh, Tommy's asking, it doesn't show unless you're VMCA certified. Um, Interesting. You mean the blueprint? It should. Um,
Uh, I think you need to first take the class, and after that you can see the blueprint for the exam, which
ah,
is I
right.
I believe that could be the only thing. I don't really know why it's done like that, but
Yeah, because if you've done it before, you're just upgrading, and so you're let into that area to see it. So that's a good point, Tommy. Thank you for pointing that out. And honestly, the course it's fantastic, especially now with 3 days. I'd be really interested in taking it. Again, we talked about the value of certification, because sometimes you'll hear, hopefully not from bosses who are paying for this, well, what are all these certifications for? Like, yeah, a piece of paper. But it's not true, because it expands your overall knowledge of the product, makes you stronger. Look, I've never worked on something like a net app or something like that, but because of the VMCEs that I did in the past, I had to learn enough about them. What it meant was that if ever I parachuted into a situation where someone had a net app, I wouldn't be clueless. I wouldn't be Google and know nothing. So that's a huge, huge advantage of these certifications, not to mention that you might be able to get a pay raise. But also, and this is especially important at VMCA, this methodology, this training, it's not even the piece of paper which makes it important. It's like when I used to train for marathons, I used to think it was the medal at the end. It's not. It's the 5 or 6 or 8 months of training, of discipline, of creating systems, of getting ready that I can then use in other places, like Razvan said. Um, Also, comes to the exam, and a lot of times people don't pay any attention to this, the preparation mentally going into them. And I'll give you some advice from my personal experience. I have a very kind of, you can tell, hyperactive personality. I couldn't sit still in a place for very long, and I would find it difficult to concentrate. And if I got some long question that was annoying me, I started to get angry and frustrated. And you know what happens then? Your brain turns off. One thing I found, silly though, but it works. Before taking an exam like this, I'll put some music on, which is very calming, very calming. I'm not going to put on heavy metal, punk rock, and I just get into a kind of mode, because I know some people, like Razvan said, who are excellent, much smarter than me, much better at technology than me, but at exams they're horrible. They freak out and they make mistakes they would never make in production or in a real disaster, recovering customers. So I think it's important you also uh, think about that aspect of these exams too, because sometimes the difference between passing and not passing is in degrees. Just my personal advice. What advice would you have, Razvan, apart from just what we've talked about today? Joe
uh,
says he uses extreme
yeah,
metal. Different personalities.
yeah. Try to find the best time to take the exam. I mean, for example, I find that I work better in the mornings. It changed. Uh, 10 years ago, I would probably choose late evenings to do the exam, but now I need my morning. Um, what else? I wanted to say something, but it seems that it just slipped my mind. It's about the class and the whole thing. So what I'm trying, why I think also that the class would be interesting. Um, what I'm telling my students is, you're gonna do this design. I'm not gonna check every single number that you put in there, I'm not gonna check every single decision that you made. You are the architect. You made that decision. Be prepared to support it. Be prepared to defend your architectural decision. If you're telling me that you want to put this data on the moon, fine. But I will challenge it, defend it. If you can defend it, you can convince me that it's a good decision, it's viable, it can be implemented, I'm fine with it. And that's what we're trying to actually do with the class. So that would be another change. We're switching from getting the right architecture to getting people to create an architecture that they can defend. Other advices I don't have.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because during the exam, that's one of the things I remember doing was saying to Geoff, what's wrong with this? Okay, you've chosen this. Why have you chosen it? I mean, if you have time, obviously, and that helped. And I actually, I'll be honest, I went back and changed a few. I mean, I think it was upwards of 10 questions I went back and changed. And it wasn't just, okay, I'm going to guess. But so that's also to keep in mind. Do any of you have any more questions? We have 5 minutes left. This has been great, by the way, Razvan. It's, going over this stuff again helps me for in 2 years' time when I'm forced again to do it.
Yeah, on ProPartner, there is a practice exam, and you can do that one. Yeah. But not everybody, I think, has access to ProPartner.
That's one of the reasons why on the Veeam Community Hub we decided to do this. You make the design, even though it won't be like an exam, so you won't have an answer and question. But it will help you. And perhaps maybe on some other sites too, there'll be some practice exams coming up. But those are just, I would say the practice exams, use them more to prepare yourself for the experience, rather than rely on, as Razvan said, the actual answers and memorizing, especially for this exam. I think that goes with every exam. The other thing to keep in mind too is, and I always say this, we've got 4 minutes left, always avoid the cheap, easy way brain dumps, which aren't always easy, aren't always cheap, and often incorrect. So from the philosophical point of view, they devalue the certifications. Okay. Boss will say, well, yeah, you can buy these down at the corner market, So it's part of that. You're also gypping yourself because you're not doing this just for the piece of paper. You're doing this to become a better IT professional. And it is, of course, illegal in the sense you get caught, Veeam will kick you out forever. You'll be in the Veeam dungeon. So I always tell people like that, because believe it or not, I still do get questions from LinkedIn. Hey, Geoff, you did the exam. First of all, can you tell me the answers? And second of all, which brain dumps did you use? And it's like, no, I'm very nice. I say, no, don't use them. And I don't remember the questions, which is true, by the way, because I get so in the zone that I come out and I go, what was that? So anyways, anybody else have, we got Juiced is going to have his training booked in November. Excellent.
Awesome.
So folks, if there aren't any more questions, thank you very much, Razvan. I appreciate this, and hopefully we can do more of these. And
anytime.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to help with
the design. You make the design. That'd be great to have a real community discussion there. All right. Well, thank you very much, folks, and we'll see you next time. Thank you again, Razvan.